Hi, this is Alison from the Educational Company of Ireland, and you are welcome to our Croí na Gaeilge webinar. Croí na Gaeilge is a new and exciting package for Junior Cycle Irish written by two passionate and experienced classroom teachers, Megan O'Connor and Pierce Ahern. Pierce Ahern is a teacher with over 15 years' experience working in secondary schools and Gaeltacht summer colleges. He was awarded a Master's with Distinction from St Patrick's College, DCU, Drumcondra, for his thesis on how to improve second language proficiency. He has supervised PME students in UCD and has developed bilingual educational resources for ESB. Megan O'Connor is a secondary school Irish teacher who graduated from Trinity College Dublin with an honours degree in Irish and History. She completed the Professional Masters in Education in University College Dublin in 2019. With a significant presence on social media, she has worked on marketing campaigns with Gael Culture and Croí na Gaeilge. Megan's latest feature in the media was teaching grammar on TG Cahar. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our authors and let them present to you Croí na Gaeilge.
Okay, brilliant. Now, the first thing I wish to talk about is the spiral approach that we have adopted in this book. Up to now, the market has tended to always use a linear approach to language teaching. That is where items are only visited once and they're not revisited, and they're kind of put into a box, separated out from other issues instead of making links between all the different moving parts of the language. So in this book, we have used what is now considered international best practice, where you come into a topic at a low point, say, for example, the present tense, and you visit that using a couple of verbs, and then you come back to that and link it to the colours, and then in the following chapter, link it to the days of the week, and thereafter that link the same verbs to either numbers or prepositions. So through the spiral approach, you are visiting the core nucleus items which drive the language over and over and over again. And like a spiral staircase, as you revisit the item, you come in at a higher point and exit at a higher point, rather than simply taking an issue, looking at it once, hoping that it sticks, and then boxing it off. So a lot of the work that we do in the spiral approach is linked to a set of reference sheets, which I will talk about in far greater detail later on in this presentation. Okay, I'll hand you over now to Meg.
Okay, initial core the bottom alert clean literature off the postulaire. So I'd like to speak about the literature that we have in the book and the pieces that we've chosen. So we've an example of one here on this slide, which is on Nullig Fado le Ogi. Istoka gwa ahna Gaeilge or Ogi. So everyone probably knows Ogi already. We have original content from him, and in terms of the pieces of literature that we've chosen, we've really used them to drive the rest of the chapter. So each of our literature pieces usually inspire some of the grammar in our chapter, and we'll also use the piece of literature to springboard other ideas. So for example, we've explored the difference between on Caidan agus on Canún here in relation to on Nullig Fado. So we actually tie culture into it as well. And at the back of our book, we have a whole separate section that deals with how to create and construct sample answers or reflection pieces on literature pieces, because oftentimes students find it quite hard to discuss even English literature, never mind Irish literature. So all that vocab and sample sentences are at the back of the book for the student.
Okay.
Okay, so culture as well. What we didn't want to do was to box off culture into one Aenid or one chapter. So as I've said, we've tried to intertwine culture throughout each chapter. The picture there on the right shows how we use the poem Sov Millish to inspire a piece on culture, and we chose to talk about Fallon and the Irish Company and the family and the history behind that. In another chapter, we also have a section on Gaeltacht 2.0 is what we've called it, or Irish Online, It was really important for us to make sure that we appealed to students in T2 schools. Oftentimes they feel like Irish is something that only exists in Gaeltacht areas. So we wanted to show them there is Irish culture that exists outside the Gaeltacht areas and also inside the Gaeltacht areas. So we've referenced some things like Cunner na Gaeilge, the pop-up Gael talks, and the presence of Irish on social media, and as well all the vocab that they need to discuss that.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Now, here I'd just like to talk a little bit about how we have made a great effort in Croí na Gaeilge to connect strand 1 and strand 2 of the specification, the new specification for the junior cycle. We do not want the grammar or the nuts and bolts of the language to be separated out from the authentic material, from the original literature of the language. So here is a small little poem, Dawn le Dávi. Okay, you can read it there on the screen if you wish. It's just a kind of a comedic poem. And to that, using that piece, we've connected na ceistena, nu na ceist ocal. And we've also, in other cases, taken literature pieces and picked out the specific brihara from that literature and then looked at the tense or the aimsir of that chapter and put the verbs from that ábhar dílis into the specific tense relating to the section of the book that we are working on. Again, we are using the ábhar dílis, the authentic literature, as a vehicle to allow us to interrogate the nuts and bolts and the workings of the language in a way that marries strand 1 and strand 2 of the specification properly. As it says here on the screen, the grammar is grounded in the literature and the pages are properly sequenced in this way. Grammar points don't just jump at you from nowhere. They don't just come anear a dewey earth without a rationale. They are purposely linked seamlessly back to the previous page so that the flow of the book is constantly swaying from strand 1 and strand 2 for the most part, although of course strand 3, the fein aimsú and the self-awareness of the student is brought in towards the later stages of each chapter. So the literature and the grammar are tied together in properly sequenced pages using thematic language, and again the spiral, revisiting the points again and again and again, so that you are learning the various parts of the language and all parts of the language at all times, rather than isolating individual items. And as always, all these core elements, the nucleus of the language, is at all times linked back to the litríocht and the authentic ábhar dílis of Irish. Okay? So there has also been a big thing made in the new specification of multimodal leibhishkint. So gone are the days of the black and white couple of paragraphs with questions where you just link a word from the question back to the article at the top, and it's a kind of hide and go seek, and you drop down an answer that's an echo of the question. We have brought in timetables, we've brought in colored pictures, and through this, for example, if you were looking at the days of the week and the time down the left-hand side of the chlorama on Shin, you would have to be able to write the times of the clock independently of them appearing in the leibhishkint. It allows for a new type of question. It allows for the student to be the generator of their own sentences. A big thing in our book is that we look at the sentence as the unit of communication and the unit of learning. We don't look at individual words. We go right across the sentence so that we look at how words impact on the next word. How do prepositions impact on the next word? How do the words in front of verbs, which ones add shevus, which one add urus? Because you can't communicate fully if you see the word as the unit of sense. You have to come across to the idea that the sentence is the unit of sense and the unit of communication before the Mara and Shin. And through the multimodal leefhiskend, it means that the student is independently creating their own sentences, and this will stand to them in the long-term growth of their ability to communicate as Gaeilge. Agus sin mar atá déanta againn sa leabhar seo. Okay, so I'll hand you back to my co-author now.
Okay, so bhádam leirtliv just been store for Clothosa leir show. So just in relation to the vocab that we have in the book. So at the bottom in the image, you'll see one of the glosses that we have in from the leifhiskend. So any of the kind of new words that come up, we've glossed them with just a small number, so it's not too intrusive in the piece of text. We really encourage the students to use the online resources that they have in terms of dictionary work. So we often ask them to use terma.ie or use changlam.ie and to do piece of Taida Erlina. As well as that, at the end of the textbook, we have, it's almost like a mion uklor, like a mini folklore, and you'll see it there on the left-hand side. And that has all of the keywords from each Aenid there. So it's really convenient when it comes around to test time. You don't have to say to the students, you know, flip to page 201, 204. You can just go straight to the back of the book and give them each box if you want them to learn that. As well, we have added in for some of the vocab at the back of the book, the genders of the noun. So if that's something that you'd like to explore, you absolutely can. If it's something that you don't talk about in first year, well, then you can leave that be. In terms of the types, the type of vocab that we have in the book, obviously tháinig an already out. So the usual things are there, whether that's things to do with Cursi Scullia or on talk or on Aimshire, no Peyrod Marshin or anything like that. But we really tried to think of modern vocab that students actually want to learn, because obviously we all have to teach our students the syllabus, and there's certain, you know, goals, I suppose, that they need to achieve or they need to reach. But having even young students this year, my second years, I know that they don't leave school and go home and speak about the weather or speak about the rooms in their house. So we have really tried to put in vocab that will appeal to them. We have plenty of vocab in to do with social media. We have some pages on makeup, some pages on fashion, some pages on Netflix, Cúpla Rud or Chili Rebra. There's some stuff on computer games as well. So that we've a whole page in on a coffee shop as well. One of my second years for homework came in with a Starbucks order translated. You know, this is the type of thing that they do like to know. So it was really fantastic that we had the opportunity to put that in. And again, when the vocab pops up in each of the individual Aenids, there usually is a task folklore to go with it as well.
So the second major departure in this book, along with the spiral approach, which is instead of the linear approach, the other major break from the crowd is the fact that we have put in a huge effort to develop autonomous work, the independent work of the student, so that they are co-teachers, they are collaborators within their own learning. They must take ownership of the journey genuinely if they are going to undergo a high level of language acquisition. And we have supported student agency through the development of a suite of reference cards. There are 8 of them in total. The closest comparison I could think of from the Seomoranga from my days in school would be the maths tables. They sit there on the desk in Acheleshon Texlauer. They can be opened at any stage. They travel from chapter to chapter. They are a companion along the road at all times. We have identified the major issues. Tavi is the high frequency irregular nouns get a special name on Shea Moore. The house of prepositions there on the right hand side is color coded, as are all items in the book. There is a consistent color palette where the Shevu boxes have a certain color, the Hriv Gutha have that yellow color, the Uru has its own color, and the students during the year will become familiar with this. through the use of these reference cards, we are trying to lay information on top of information so that it becomes knowledge. This is not a case where chapter 1 is done and it can disappear up the chimney. Chapter 1 is set at a certain level, the language register within the book, Bacor the Mara, Bíonn sé dul an Airde ó hús go deireadh. And the second chapter, the language register is slightly higher. There's a big distinction between the first half of the book and post-Christmas. But at all times, the tasks within the book are labeled and referenced so that the students can go and take out their suite of reference cards and make use of the applicable one in that case, be it tábhíos, be it irregular verbs, be it the matter of numeracy. And numeracy is something that this book addresses head on. And these 8 reference cards will be carried from first year through to second year and on into third year. It is also worth noting at this point that the book has what the equivalent of a kind of hyperlink, where there are references that carry them through to relevant extension exercises within the Laur Gníomhaíochta, the activity book, so that for the fast finishers, there is a space, spás le fás, for those people. And this makes classroom management a lot easier for the teacher, because the book, the way it is structured and with the complementary activity book, it's not just something out there on the side taking up space for the sake of it. It is allowing this book to have a low floor and a high ceiling. And it is allowing space for the teacher to move through the classroom by occupying the fast finishers and the strongest students in your class, or have cuasaí acadúla. They are kept busy while the teacher can approach and move through the classroom as part of best practice and help those who are struggling with whatever the issue is of that day. So student agency and autonomous learning is supported in this book through the use of a suite of reference charts or reference sheets, which I said are akin to the maths tables. They should be on the desk at all times. And these, which give the student their independence, are connected fully to a spiral journey instead of a linear journey, so that the core issues are seen again and again, and through a function of relentless repetition, the most important headline issues within the language are revisited time out of number, so that by the end of first year, and before you would move on to Croí na Gaeilge Uimhre 2 nó Uimhre 3, you are well and truly have a fantastic grounding to carry you into the later stage of the junior cycle. Okay. Another feature to support independent working is the cogger, and this one was debated, and we tested it, and we asked various groups what they felt about this idea. But hints and tips and hacks are presented in the book, and there is a small amount of space given to English to a whisper, what has been called the cogger. And this just gets over the bump where you can often hit the brick wall. One of the most popular cogger within the book was one relating to the present tense. From I to we, just add id. Now that really clears up a lot of cloudy problems around the present tense, and it makes the journey from an chéad farsa iver uha go dtí an chéad farsa iver ulra very, very easy. It's captured in one sentence, and there is room again within the specification to recognize the fact that this is a T2 book. This is a text lawer of a úsáids na scolanna ina bhfuil an béarla in a phríomhtheanga sa scoil sin. Okay, so the cogger is there to facilitate more independent work, and again, to make life and classroom management that little bit easier for the teacher, so that they're not giving an abundance of time to those notoriously hard issues, which are addressed very quickly through a whisper. Okay. Okay, I'll hand you back over to Meg now at this stage again.
Yeah, so throughout each unit we have pair and group work, so you'll see there's different things here. We've edco.ie, and that provides the students with an opportunity to speak to each other. They're always given a criteria raha to fulfill, so the success criteria, and oftentimes a couple of hints and tips to help them as well. We have Croí here as well, which they're two very different things. Our edco.ie is there for the purpose of pair or group work and for the students to practice their communication skills amongst themselves, while the Croí is something that they work on themselves. Our probably most standout piece of pair work or group work is our cluiche ag dara an aonad. So I say cluiche, really it's masunu. So basically we decided the most efficient or effective way to carry out peer vasunu would be to have the students play a game. So it brings a bit of umiacht into the classroom as well. Oftentimes people will take on peer vasunu as just checking someone else's work, but we wanted to do it in a way that was much more effective than that. So ag dara gach aonad mar sin, at the end of every unit we have a different game. So we might have a crossword in one, we might have a questions game in another. They always come with instructions, and everything from that aonad is assessed in that game. Kamala sin, as well as that, ag dara gach aonad tá leathanach ann don féin vasunu. There is a page there for self-reflection or self-assessment at the end of each chapter, just for the students to check themselves, see how much they've learned. It's a fairly easy page to fill in. The peer vasunu would definitely be the stand-out part between the two of those. A lot of them also carry out the format of board games. You know, they're games.
There's a snakes and ladders one as well.
Yeah, like we have a snakes and ladder one. I think that was for Aonad a 3. So they're really, really interactive while also testing the student skills.
Okay, so we're nearly there, guys. Just to say that there will be an app included with this book, and I would like to just make 2 points about how the listening skills are developed. There are both éisteacht and clús-tuiscint elements in the book. So there are small nuggets of information captured as we go along through the chapter, so that pretty much every day, or at least every second day, there are opportunities to bring in listening skills into the classroom. You know, certainly across 2 periods, all 5 skills will be revisited again and again and again. What allows us to touch base with the cluas and the listening skills are the éisteacht that are stitched in right through the book. And then complementary to each chapter, there is a full junior cycle style clús-tuiscint with 5 questions, you know, including the córá, the fógra, agus a lehéid, na caintóirí, an chéad caintóir, an dara caintóir. So that by the end of first year, where the book is done, the student will have completed 8 junior cycle style full clús-tuiscint, and pretty much on a daily basis they will have been able to practice their listening skills through the smaller éisteacht element of the which is, as I said, stitched into the book right throughout at all stages. So the standout issues for me are the spiral, which is not available in the market yet. So that's a step away from the linear approach, and the autonomous work, which is developed and supported by the suite of 8 reference sheets, which there is nothing comparable to it in any other book. There's nothing anywhere in the ballpark of that. We also have a very highly developed Achfin Punana. So instead of students having to start their punning pieces with a blank page, we have a mock-up sheet to get the ball rolling, because it's much easier to keep the ball rolling once you have it started. So they would be three major elements for me. Megan brought in a lot of the 21st century stuff, so I might let her wrap up on that. Agus sin mo chuidse tá mise cléochnatha agus tá gachrod a bhí a géirí rá ráite go mé go buinte seo. So go mí maithe goib as 8 mhór goid éisteachta agus tásúlagam go muinnig sib tanmh as an leabhar seo agus bhí cinnte níos mó na sreacha chun do chóirt ar an rud tá neart le suaisteach ón leabhar agus bháilumsa ag go buinte seo faoin aimse seo ará ghaoib ag an am seo le tá súlagam go bhainnig sib a le sláán agus go dtuchamuid a le sláán as an rud seo agus go méid blian níos fearr agus blian acadúil níos fearr going an blian seo chuin ar bheith an leabhar seo Croí na Gaeilge san seomraí ranga timpeall na tíre. Bin mo chuidse gur maithagaí. Okay, Meg, thanks.
Yeah, chuirde so Margaret Pierce cúpla nóméid ó hin darlinn is an leir seo an leir is nua aimsere atá ar an marga faoi láir. So we really do believe that it's kind of the most modern book that's probably out there at the minute. You know, for me, as someone that, you know, didn't go to Gaeilge school when I was younger, I wasn't raised with Irish or anything like that. When I was in school, when I was in first year, when I was in second year, I had the attitude that Irish was something that didn't exist outside the Gaeltacht, and that it wasn't a modern thing, you know, that it couldn't be fun, it couldn't be cool or anything like that. So with this book, we've really tried to show students that Irish is a living language. And I know a lot of people say that they attempt to do that and then don't really succeed in doing it, but even things as simple as the vocab that's gone into the book, we really do think it's going to be something that students will actually be able to relate to, and a book that they'll be excited to open. Yeah, sinna bhfuil weimse níl mór an eile really rágam, not much else. Is dócha gur féidir libh dul le deagháil leis an honnadathe má hastín níos mó ólis web. If you need any more information, you can contact our reps, or I'm always on social media. If anyone follows me, I'm more than happy to speak to anyone about our fantastic book. Gur míle maith.
Arrós, maithú, gur maithagaí. Sinné, slán inis.
Thanks to our wonderful authors for taking the time to present Croí na Gaeilge to us, and thank you for tuning in to our webinar this evening. For any queries, contact Edco or your local sales representative for further information at www.edco.ie/reps. Gurv míle maith agat.